Hello, everybody, and welcome to another charla with Angeles investors. My name is Jorge Pastrana. I'll be your host for today's charla on diversifying your retirement strategy, angel investing through self-directed IRAs. This charla is brought to you in partnership with Equity Trust, formerly Midland Trust, and they are also sponsors of Angeles investors. So thank you. For those of you joining us for the first time, I'll provide some quick context around Angeles investors. We are an angel investor group that was founded in 2020 with the express mission to find, fund, and grow the most promising Hispanic and Latinx ventures. And we've made great strides since the formation of our investing group. Today we stand at almost 300 members across 29 states. We have a goal of reaching 500 members by 2025 and have a nationwide presence. To date, we've invested around $13 million across 25 portfolio companies and recently launched Angeles Ventures Fund 1. So a lot of momentum going on with us investors, like our CEO, David Valencia likes to say we're one of the fastest growing angel investing groups in the United States. So whether you're an angel and Angeles investor member or an angel investor listening, and you're asking yourself, what does that mean to diversify your retirement strategy by angel investing through self-directed IRAs? Well, we have a couple of experts on the line, esteemed panelists that are joining us to answer that very question. Starting with Adela Sepulveda, doesn't really need an introduction, but I'll try my best here. Adela is co-founder and chair of Angeles Investors, co-general partner of a recently launched Angeles Venture Fund 1, corporate director of BMO Financial Corp, director of the Mercer Funds, the Pathway Funds, and chairs the UBS Funds. She's also been named one of the 100 most influential Latinos by Bloomberg Linea, named the 50 most powerful Latinas by the Association of Latino Professionals for America, or ALPHA, and is the recipient of multiple awards, including the 2024 Chicago United's Tony Cornelius Special Recognition Award. Adela, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And we're representing Equity Trust. We have Adam Sypniewski. He is the Managing Director of Institutional Services at Equity Trust. Adam has spent the last 17 years simplifying the self-directed IRA process and has deep expertise in helping private capital flow to investments funds, real estate lending, and other private investment opportunities. In his current role, it's about new business development for Equity Trust self-directed IRAs. So we have the true expert in-house to help answer some of these questions. And by the way, Adam, born and raised in Chicagoland, same place as the origins of Angeles Investors, based out of Chicago, and currently resides in Naperville, Illinois, with his wife and two daughters. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Jorge. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So Adam, we're going to start the conversation with you. If you want to pull up your overview of Equity Trust, we'll start with Equity Trust, the transition from Midland Trust. Maybe you want to also just jump right into what it means to angel invest through self-directed IRAs, how all this works. I know that's the main question I had. I mean, I didn't even know about this, and maybe some of our members as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Jorge. Yeah, I'm delighted to talk to the audience today about the power of self-direction, we call it, and the opportunity to angel invest with retirement dollars sitting in your IRA and other qualified accounts. Before we get into that, I thought, as you requested, I'd give a brief overview about Equity Trust and how we came to be. As you did mention, Jorge, I represent the Equity Institutional Services team, which was formerly Midland Trust. So as you mentioned, I'm in Chicago, as is Adela and others here with AI, and we've been fortunate enough to share that great city with Angeles investors and others. Midland Trust was acquired by Equity Trust late 2023. And so we've sunset the Midland Trust brand, but we are excited to now be Equity Institutional Services. Now, as a part of the Equity Trust family of companies, we can claim custody to over 330,000 individual client accounts. And while the slide says 45 billion in assets under custody, that number has actually since climbed to over 50 billion in assets that we custody for our self-directed IRA investors. As mentioned, our office is here in Chicago, but we have our headquarters in Cleveland, along with the legacy Midland office down in Fort Myers, Florida. So we are a national brand and a national company. We've been fortunate enough to be a part of Angeles investors events in both Chicago and Florida, and are so grateful for your partnership here. And one little note that we do like to brag about is that as Midland Trust, Forbes did recognize us as the best IRA custodian for private equity investing. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what is an actual self-directed IRA. What does this term mean, and who's eligible for this? Who can participate in this? Well, I think the first thing that we want to lay the groundwork on, Jorge, is the fact that when we say a self-directed IRA, that's really just a marketing term. And it's a marketing term to communicate that this IRA is being used to participate in private investments, alternative investments, venture opportunities, angel opportunities, real estate, private equity, whatever it might be. It's going to be non-publicly traded. So while maybe Fidelity or Schwab says you can, self-direct your IRA into NVIDIA and ETFs and mutual funds that you want to pick from their curated list, when we talk about self-direction, what we mean is that the taxpayer, the IRA account holder, is picking and choosing private opportunities that they've come across in their, investor marketplace, in their communities, and in their, what they've come across in their professional and personal lives. So that does include angel and startup investing. That does include venture capital, private equity, and those other assets that we've listed. So it's not a tax status. We can self-direct our traditional IRA just as much as we can self-direct our traditional IRA, our SEP, and those other type of individual retirement accounts. Some of the biggest things that I'd want to point out just very briefly to the audience is that the way that we set this up so that you keep your tax shields in place is that you want to make sure that you work with a custodian when embarking on your self-directed journey. There is some registrations and tax IDs and the like that need to be in place to make sure that you're not improperly taxed on this type of activity. So for the audience here, I just strongly recommend that you make sure that you deal or set up with a self-directed IRA custodian like Equity Trust that is specialized in this activity. This is not something that you can go at on your own. I would be remiss if I didn't say something, because we don't want any sort of undue tax liabilities coming to the audience. And so briefly, I'll touch on who's eligible, Jorge, and then we can take a pause from the slideshow here. When we talk about eligibility, folks, it's not so much who can do this. Anybody who has retirement assets might be eligible to do this. Anybody can open an IRA. It's just a matter of how can you fund that IRA. Well, you need to have income to contribute to an IRA, or you have to have a capital source from which you can roll over or transfer from into said IRA. So this typically falls into two buckets. When we're talking about funding in an IRA for the first time, most folks they might introduce some contribution dollars, but the IRS says we can only do that up to $7,000 of earned income per year. Most private investments, exceed that amount, or most folks are looking to do more than a $7,000 investment at a time. So again, contribution is not the most frequent way that we see self-directed investors start. It's usually by way of rollover or by transfer from an existing IRA. So when we talk about what type of accounts can be used to encourage that self-direction, we talk about taxpayers, individuals that have been working usually for some time, that have accumulated a balance in an employer plan. Here at Equity Trust, I have a 401k where I've accumulated a balance. If I were to retire or separate service with Equity Trust in any way, I could roll over that balance into a self-directed IRA. I wouldn't have to bring it to my next employer. I can bring it into a self-directed account to start picking and choosing the startups that I want to invest in, or the specific hard money lending situation that I want to be a part of. Other types of employer plans, 401k is obviously the most popular and well-known, but things like a 457 or 403b for our nurses out there and doctors and the like. Again, we want to see those employer plans have a separation of service, and that typically means you've left that employer via retirement or by changing jobs. So when we talk about active 401ks, in most cases, those are going to be ineligible to roll over because most plans are going to keep your dollars in that plan. But the most frequent way we see investors get started, Jorge, is by way of transfer from an existing IRA. So if you have IRA dollars at Schwab, at Fidelity, we can transfer those into equity trust to begin your self-directed IRA journey. And in any of these cases, Jorge and audience, there is no tax liability. When we roll over from a employer plan into an IRA, there's no tax liability. There's no limit on the frequency of those rollovers that you do. And the same is true for IRA transfers. We can move assets among IRA accounts as much as we like, as long as we don't take them to our person. There's no limit or tax liability incurred. So when we talk about eligibility, it's more about where are the funds coming from and are they, qualified, and can they be rolled over and or transferred.
I appreciate it, Adam, for demystifying this already quite a bit for us. I think you picked up differentiating yourself from other institutional investing groups like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, right? Public versus private, and also great point. Take some time through an IRA to grow your wealth, right? With that cap of 7,000, how can you leverage somewhere where you can really grow much faster, like a 401k, give you that flexibility with a larger balance, roll it over, and now you can move these funds to equity trust and have much more money, I say, to play with or to use for these type of investments. So truly the value proposition that equity trust brings to the table.
No, absolutely, Jorge.
Yeah, and I say I forgot that you had a Fort Myers office. I'll have to catch up with you all next time you're in Florida, as I'm based in Orlando.
Excellent.
All right. Now with now that we have this demystify kind of understanding how it works, who qualifies for this, I'll turn it over to Adela now. Adela, one of our most consistent investors, right, within the Angeles investors, who is part of the Equity Trust Network. Maybe Adela, if you can touch on why join Equity Trust and why invest in startups through this vehicle, these self-directed IRAs.
Thank you so much. So I realized that I was going to be investing probably in a significant way in this asset class of venture capital, which generally does require, some consistency, because you want to build a portfolio that's diversified, unless you're investing in a fund. So, one of the smart approaches to almost any investing is diversification. So I knew once I got started and that I would be investing consistently. Also at Angeles, we screen 100 or so opportunities a month. And so you're getting the best of the best opportunities to invest in a startup. And then I think the decision is somewhat personalized, right? I mean, are you making a lot of money so that investing consistently from your ongoing income, cash flow, isn't going to, challenge your lifestyle because you're putting this much away? Is there another pocket of taxable income that you have somewhere that you can invest? And then when I looked at all my options, I had quite a significant amount in retirement accounts. Also, investing in retirement accounts is in and of itself, a tax enhancing strategy. So it's something I continue to do. I started this, before my 60s. And so I have the amount there. It doesn't technically have to be withdrawn, any part of it, until you're 71. So why not use some of that capital? That's how I thought about it. And I did roll over funds. And it happened as we were getting started with Angeles that I had closed out an IRA in a business I had sold. and it was just easy to just roll it. By the way, that's a very simple paperwork that in terms of rolling it over. It took, a week at most to get it to be effective. I'm not even sure I did it online, but probably now you can do it online. And boom, the money is in. And then what I have found helpful is that the support staff at Equity Trust is willing always to, handle the various documents that have to be signed and showing us, what needs to happen. These investments in venture capital are sometimes time sensitive. So the investment has to be closed by a certain date. That means everybody putting their money into that special purpose vehicle, otherwise known as an SPV, has to invest physically by a certain date. And I've never had an issue with Equity Trust in terms of getting it there. So it's been very efficient. It worked for me in terms of my own portfolio. Typically, because of the restrictions in an IRA, in a traditional IRA, you cannot invest in alternatives of this kind. So when you consider that maybe a lot of your wealth might be in retirement money, well, it's missing the investment in these higher risk but higher opportunity for return assets. And so that was a way to make sure that my overall portfolio in investments and net worth was, properly reflecting this asset class.
Yeah, no, definitely. So Adela, and for me to clarify, you've been leveraging equity trust, self-directed IRA investing since you started as investors. Is that accurate? You've been investing through self-directed IRAs.
Yeah, for Angeles, yes. So
Yeah.
since 2020, I opened the account early, and since then it's been through here.
Yeah. No, and you make good points, right? Like, how do you, depending on where you are, right, from a net worth perspective or cash flow perspective, how can you find those pockets of money with a long-term vision or a long-term view on growing that wealth without impacting your current lifestyle? So I think that's a great value proposition for this type of investment vehicle or opportunity. Adam, I don't know if you want to jump on, let us touch a little bit on how it works and like maybe how easy it is, right? Maybe to join equity trust and do these use this investment vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely, Jorge, and we are just so grateful to count Adela as one of our as our client as well as a partner. So we're deeply grateful to have her as a client as well. And she brings up some great points about diversification and the fact that most Americans have the majority of their investable wealth within their retirement account. I think it's something like 70% of an American's investable wealth is within their retirement vehicles. So when you think about access to these opportunities, that pocket of capital sitting in that old 401k, that old IRA, that IRA that you haven't looked at for a while, and that's sitting at Schwab. These are, these are the capital opportunities that you can use into self-direction. When you talk about how does the process work, how easy it is to get going, Adela, yes, we are online as well nowadays. We have a great online experience where you can, self-serve a setup of a self-directed IRA and initiate its funding. It's easy enough to go to apply.midlandtrust.com, and I'll have a slide on that later here, Jorge. But really, if you have an IRA sitting at another custodian, if you have a 401k plan sitting, with your old TPA, all you need to do is visit us at apply.midlandtrust.com. Get started there. We'll ask you, where those funds are coming from. You'll key that in online and you're within the application. and you'll be shepherded along through our e-signature process. So in a lot of cases, folks, we don't even need to print a piece of paper or sign anything to get going. If you do have any questions, I'm a real human resource that would be more than happy to serve you and have a conversation about what you're looking to do, because we're all about accommodating these investors and making sure that we understand their investment plans and what they're trying to accomplish, because we're just so excited about this, and passionate about the self-directed process, because we get to meet, incredibly, sharp and sophisticated folks that are finding these, incredible opportunities within the Angeles network and beyond. So again, it's as simple as, visiting us online at apply.midlandtrust.com, or giving me a call, or sending me an email, which I'll provide my contact later in the show.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much, Adam. Adela, since we're speaking to, directly to our Angeles Investors members, and more broadly to our Angeles Investor Network, why do you think an opportunity like this type of investment vehicle is important to our Hispanic Latinx community?
Well, we never know about it, right? I mean, people have their retirement IRA account somewhere, and maybe you're asked to select, if it's a corporate one, you're asked to select some categories. You're very restricted in what you can put in, funds, and mostly equity and debt funds, and direct stocks, but you don't know that there are ways to do this. And again, it's a very personal thing. And if you have lots of income, and I've found that I'm investing roughly 50 to 100 a year in venture capital. Well, I thought it would be good to use some of this capital that was there. It wasn't sitting idle, but it wasn't invested in this. And so you set goals for yourself. How much should you put in venture capital? And so you say, well, okay, maybe 10% more even of my total assets. And then you arrive at that number by gradually investing in different opportunities. So I think it's a question of knowing that this is an option. I didn't know about this until Angeles and David Olivencia told me about it. He uses his sometimes too. I had no idea. I was even skeptical. So the fact that this is an opportunity to diversify my asset class was, an extremely valuable information for me, given my own economic positioning. So I think that we need to know. It's not leveraged, right? It's assets that you already have accumulated. Hopefully you've already grown them. So it's because venture capital is somewhat illiquid, putting them in a portfolio that you can really not access anyway until you're 71. Earlier, if you don't want to max out the value of your, I guess you can start at 65. I'm not exactly sure what the date is, but generally there are restrictions on when you can access it. So if you have a large portfolio in your IRA, then why not diversify it with some of these assets that are illiquid? It's not money that you're going to be using soon. I think that's a consideration as well.
Absolutely, Adela. I think you brought up some excellent points that we commonly see folks turning to self-direction. Obviously, the diversification element is paramount. Not everybody wants to trade the S&P or the yield curve or get the same 4.5% or whatever it might be. They're seeking true opportunities to earn a return that exceeds what they can find in the general marketplaces. So that's probably one of the most popular reasons folks get started with this. But you touched on some excellent points, Adela, with cash flow and time, the investment horizon on when we expect those returns to come up. Because when we use the dollars in our IRA to access these opportunities, those are dollars that we, when I say we, I mean those that are under retirement age or maybe not approaching retirement age extremely soon. This kind of capital source of our IRA can be used to access an opportunity that we may not be liquid enough in our taxable investment accounts to access. So a lot of folks that are concerned about cash flow, if they were to participate in a startup or a note, or even the fund one that might be starting up, the IRA can be used to get in when the dollars just aren't there in another investment account. So I think, Adela, you brought up some excellent points there that I had to kind of build upon there. So thanks a lot for sharing those.
No, thanks, Anna, for jumping in. I think Adela, you have to reinforce, it's about education, right? Being aware, but also and how honest investors can help with this, obviously, and is being educated on how you invest your portfolio, especially when it comes to startups, which is the focus of our investments here. Adam, with that, with the perspective of as investors and Equity Trust as a sponsor, why do you see this opportunity as important for community, both of members and our larger network?
Yeah, absolutely, Jorge. As I mentioned, the regional proximity in both Chicago and Florida, the Angeles investors community welcomed us, at some pretty prestigious events that were, I specifically remember in Chicago meeting some just wonderful people that brought resource to not only Equity Trust, but to me personally, and that I was able to provide resource as well. There's so many opportunities there to participate, your capital and your investments within the AI community, that we're so proud that our investors can now have an idea of due to our partnership with AI. So we hope that, Equity Trust clients are, coming to the Angeles investors community and participating in deals and starting to network with your members, because from Equity Trust's perspective, this has been just a wonderful partnership to grow our brand and grow within a community that is doing some significant things, not only in the close proximities that I mentioned, but nationwide and beyond. So for us, it's been a great exposure to deal flow, and deal structures that we might not have seen otherwise, or clientele that we may not have seen otherwise. So for us, it's just a partnership that's made a lot of sense. And the best part is again, that Adela is one of our clients, and there's no greater endorsement than to count, a client like Adela. So I think just up and down, Jorge, it's been just a great partnership for Equity Trust and Angeles investors, and we look forward to continuing that, going forward, and hopefully becoming a resource to more network members here as your incredible growth continues.
Yeah. No, thanks, Adam. It's great to hear your perspective and your experience. And I know I got a little bit ahead of myself earlier, but I'll pass it now to you so you can do your call to action. For those Angeles investor members that are interested, or larger network that's interested, how can they follow up with you, your team, as they consider self-directed IRAs for angel investing?
I'll flash up here on the screen, Jorge, that we can get started online. Again, apply.midlandtrust.com there at the bottom left. But folks, it's a really easy process to get going. Again, once you visit that website, we have you open that self-directed IRA. It's much like opening a bank account online, or starting, a Wealthfront account, or whatever you might have done in the financial service space previously. That's what we aspire to be. We've made this, paperless as possible, and again, a great experience online. The second step would be that we have those dollars coming into the IRA. Again, we see that funded by another IRA elsewhere, via IRA transfer, or typically by rollover from an employer plan, as we mentioned earlier. The last step being step 3, picking and executing your investment. Again, this is a self-directed account, so we're not an advisor here to tell you what to pick and choose. The beauty of self-direction is that we're going to accommodate what your passions are, what your ambitions are in terms of investing with your retirement dollars. So once we know the deal, whether it's Angeles Fund One or a startup within the community or something else that you might be passionate about, as long as we have some sort of paperwork to accomplish this deal, we can likely get your IRA involved. So it's a really easy way to get started. And again, I welcome the audience here and beyond to contact me directly anytime. I will go ahead and flash my information up there on the screen. You guys can take a picture of that QR code and it'll take you right to my calendar. If you want to book a direct time, just to have a conversation about this, dig a little bit deeper. Again, I'm passionate about this. I've been doing it 17 plus years and love the opportunity to meet new investors at varying levels of experience and sophistication. So please take the opportunity to consider me a resource in this regard. I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not a wealth advisor. But I can tell you about the power of self-direction, again, because of the generosity and involvement of folks like Adela and the like. So there's my information. Please contact me directly. Again, Equity Institutional Services, we are a proud sponsor and partner of the Angeles Investors Network, and we are so excited to continue this partnership going forward. Jorge, thanks so much.
No, thank you, Adam. Your passion is really coming through. Thank you for your partnership on this charla. Thank you to you and Equity Trust for your sponsorship of Angeles Investors. And as Adam finished that call to action, I just want to add and remind the Angeles Investors members that we have the Q3 Summit pitch night coming up in Chicago, August 15th through the 16th. So as you consider your investment options for that opportunity, know that self-directed IRAs, to equity trust and opportunity to invest. And now I'm gonna transition to for those that are maybe listening to for the first time about Angeles Investors on membership opportunities. But I think I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, Adela. I don't know if you want to give a quick pitch for Angeles Investors, and then I'll dive into some of the membership opportunities.
All I want to say is for our members to just assess what their investment situation is like, and keep in mind that that pot of money that you have in an IRA is also an option that lends itself to diversification with investments like venture. And these are the kinds of strategies that being an Angeles member can give you access to and information on. So I urge all of you to call Adam if you want more information, but also to keep in mind that the point of Angeles is to bring you closer to fabulous investing opportunities that can, do a lot in terms of enhancing your net worth. Thank you.
No, thank you, Adela. So speaking about Angeles investors and membership opportunities, we have two tiers. You could be an accredited investing member, annual fee $1,500, or an associate member, $250. And for the most part, the benefits are the same. Like Adela mentioned, great investment opportunities, right? Funding, I forget how much you said, Adela, 100, I don't know if it was 100 deals a month or what was the context. But finding a lot of deals, finding deals, so great opportunities for investment. You're joining a strong network. We're closing in on 300. We have a vision of getting to 500, being nationwide. So you get access to this network. You get access to networking with people that may be further along in their angel investing network. So you can build your acumen, you can build your confidence in angel investing. And really, the only difference between accredited members, associate members, is associate members aren't at that accredited level yet, and they're working towards that. But as being a part of the Angeles investor community, you're growing your knowledge. So once you're prepared from a wealth perspective, you can start investing in startups as well. And if you want to know more, you can go on our website at angelesinvestors.com. access membership. Pick the tier of members that you would like to join, or the appropriate tier for your particular situation. And then you will receive a welcome package from Handless Investors, and you'll be welcome to our many events that we have nationwide, including our summits and pitch nights. Again, Q3 coming up in Chicago. If you have further questions before taking that step towards membership, reach out to members@handlesinvestors.com for more information, or you can follow us on our multiple social media pages as well. With that, special thanks again to Adela, Adam, for joining me on this charla. And as always, as we say in Ahead as Investors, to the future. Thank you.